Convene and call to order the September 13th, 2021 Select Board meeting. It is now 6:15 and we are here at the Ellen T. Mitchell Bathhouse to make a very special honor to Bruce Magardo, who has worked for the Beach Committee for 58 years. So we're here tonight to honor him. Unfortunately, Mr. Magardo could not be with us tonight, and we also have our chair, Doug Brown, who, although fully vaccinated, has come down with COVID-19. So he is home, and he is I spoke with him this afternoon. He's doing okay. So I just want to make a brief comment. I have known Bruce Magardo, it feels like, for forever. I had him as a teacher at Falmouth High School. I knew him as a house administrator. He's been a Falmouth person for a very long time, and I am so honored to be here tonight to honor Bruce. So I'd like to move on, and I would like to ask our Senator, Susan Moran, to speak to Mr. Magardo and his work for Falmouth. Senator Moran?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Select Board members. Wonderful to be here right on the beach in Falmouth to pay tribute to Bruce Magardo, the one and only, the teacher, the coach, the dedicated employee of the town of Falmouth, the example of school kids, the example of sports kids, the example of lifeguards, and everyone who has worked for the beaches, both in the office, on the sand, and in the water. It's Bruce who made the program not only very dedicated and successful, but he also would work very, very hard to be sure that there was a great camaraderie, teamwork, and congratulations with a wonderful celebration at the end of the season. And he would make sure that every single person who was working for the beaches could come to that banquet and enjoy it. No matter what the cost, he put it together and worked with the administration and folks in town to be sure that happened. It's really an incredible tribute. We have all of Bruce's, we've got family, Jess, we've got folks that he's worked with. We've got a tremendous amount of support from folks in the town of really every walk. So I'm just here to present a Senate citation from the State House in recognition of Bruce Magardo. Your extraordinary, dedicated service to the town of Falmouth and its residents as a coach, teacher, and beach superintendent. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to, with a copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate. Karen Spilka, President. Michael Hurley, Clerk. Susan Moran, your State Senator. Thank you, Bruce. And I'd like to call Jess up, if I could, to present on behalf of her dad.
Thank you very much for this. I wish my dad could be here to receive this. So thank you to the selectmen and to Madam Senator and to everybody that's here. This is great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that Senator Moran has graciously volunteered to deliver the citation to Bruce Magardo personally. So thank you for that, Senator Moran. I'd like to ask Mr. Suso, our town manager, to come up and say a few words, and then I'd like people who knew Bruce also to say anything that they would like to add to our ceremony. Mr. Suso?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I want to thank State Senator Sue Moran for this well-deserved recognition to our friend Bruce. I want to thank Beach Committee members as well, and members of the Select Board. As Town Manager, I want to restate my ongoing personal thanks and appreciation to Bruce. And Bruce, I'm going to be speaking directly to you now. My appreciation to you for your continuing steadfast commitment to quality and service in relation to ensuring that the Falmouth public beaches remain the extraordinary resource that they have been for our residents. For 10 years, it's been my great pleasure, Bruce, to work with you as Assistant Beach Superintendent and more recently as Superintendent of Beaches. These job titles do not begin to describe the personal commitment which you, Bruce, have always evidenced. At the town's initial annual public recognition event in February of 2019, it was my privilege, Bruce, as you know, to individually recognize you on behalf of the Select Board for your inspiring length of service and your dedication with a certificate and an inscribed medallion. Bruce, you've set the standard for all of us for selfless public service, for which all of us are extremely grateful. I thank you once again for facilitating the completion of yet another successful beach season, Bruce, just concluded during this second and challenging pandemic year. Thank you, Bruce, and we look forward to seeing you here shortly, and we're so delighted that your daughter can be here with us on your behalf. God bless you, Bruce. Thank you.
Mr. Netto, can we start with you, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On behalf of my good friend, Bruce Magato, I would like to thank the current Board of Selectmen for taking this time to honor my good friend for his literally lifelong dedication to the Falmouth beaches. I know Doug Brown isn't here tonight, and I especially want to thank Doug. We've talked numerous times about this, but to all of you, thank you very much. This means so much when you're a Falmouth person and you dedicate basically your whole life to something in this town, and to have the opportunity tonight with all these people here. I see Jimmy Fox, who used to work for Mr. Magato, and others. And I'll try to give you some quick anecdotal history of how we got from there, 1963, to today, 2021. This beach sand is what Bruce loved. He just loved the beaches. We were in high school, 1963, and there was a change in how the Falmouth beaches were run, and it was a minor change. The superintendent was basically someone who was a summer resident, and those people who were lifeguards and worked for the beaches in the town of Falmouth had wintertime addresses of Hyde Park, Roslindale, JP, Southie. And Falmouth went to a full-time elected committee called beach commissioners, and you wouldn't believe this, but lo and behold, the person who hired Bruce to be a lifeguard in 1963 is here today, beach superintendent, past selectman, man about town, Andy Dufresne. When Andy and the other beach commissioners took over, and they saw all these summertime people, they told the current beach superintendent, this year we'll give you 8 positions for your relatives and friends, but all the rest of those Falmouth jobs will go to Falmouth people. And At that year, I can tell you, Bruce Magato, Ronnie Pacheco, Jack DeMello, people that I went to school with, had those prestigious jobs, because that was a nice job being a lifeguard, because all the girls used to look up to the lifeguards in those chairs. So I have actually here, his daughter found this today, his payroll records from 1963 as a lifeguard. And for those people, because all public employees have public knowledge, the weekly pay in 1963 for a week on the beaches was $52.80. So I don't know, Maggie, has it increased any since then? So from there, Bruce went to go work in the maintenance department. And as we were talking the other day, I said, what made you go from the lifeguard to the maintenance? 6 cents more an hour. And he was on the maintenance crew. Worked on that through college. Became assistant superintendent. Then the town of Falmouth, in its forward thinking, decided that we had to buy a machine to clean the beaches, get rid of the stones and the seaweed. And that's what, as many of you know, well, you didn't see him unless you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but Jess, I don't know how many years he did that, 20? And would clean all the beaches, in the town of Falmouth. And from there, he had been superintendent once before. And the other document I have to bring this full circle is dated June 18th, 2018, and it's the letter from Mr. Suso making Bruce the superintendent currently that he was in this position today. So these two documents represent, as Selectman Taylor told you, 58 years of consecutive service. And that's far and above, I think, what the average person. So when I picked up that sand and let it go through my fingers, because that's what went through Bruce's toes for 58 years, dedicated. But that's what you get when you hire Falmouth people. You get people that are dedicated. So, again, on behalf of Jessica, we'd like to thank you, the Board of Selectmen, and I feel so weird talking with all these people behind me, so rude, but thank you for coming up to honor my lifelong friend. We go back to the first grade till today, but again, thank you very much. I know Bruce definitely wanted to be here. Things didn't work out, and hopefully he's on the road to recovery. Thank you again.
Jim Fox.
So I was one of those summer people, lifeguards that Joe was just talking about. I first had to try out for the lifeguards in 1972, and I had to save Bruce Magato. And that was quite an experience, if you know Bruce. But I worked hard. I got the job. I worked for 5 years, and then I became a town resident in 72, and then I eventually was on the beach committee for a few years, and I'm now on the planning board. I've been really active in this town for a long time. But Bruce when we had problems on the beach committee, we went back to Bruce to figure out how to solve it, because I knew we knew how to do it, because I was one of those guys that used to drag the seaweed up in buckets and haul it on the street. I mean, he got work crews. He'd make lifeguards work on rainy days. He milked more money out of the crew than you could imagine, and he was a great leader to all the lifeguards. And I'm a little surprised there weren't more of them here tonight, but there's a few in the group here from the past. But anyways, it was really an experience to work with Bruce. And I guarantee you, the reason why we still have this road is because of Bruce's work, not just in the last 10 years, but in the last 30 years of how he did it. It was really an amazing guy to work with. So I wish him well, and I want to thank him for all the years I worked with him, and it's absolutely wonderful. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Is there anyone else who would like to share a story? Please come up, just identify yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. I represent the Old Stone Dock Association, and Bruce will know who I am. And I just want to say we don't have a proclamation. We don't have anything really to give, except we carry away decades of happy memories. He lived right here in our neighborhood. We were always proud to have him as a neighbor. He was always ready there to assist us as neighbors as well. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Absolutely.
So I know it is weird to have your back to everyone, but I just, want to take the opportunity to say, if we were an institution and we gave out honorary PhDs, Bruce would have it. There isn't going to be a person in this town who understands these beaches. He knows how the water moves. He knows how the sand moves. He is somebody who, would be a resource for Hui and MBL if they, chose to consult with him, because he has studied our shoreline, and not in just a way that people do things for jobs, but it's a passion, and he just loves it. And, I'm a little biased because he's my family, but, I can say that he brought to this job the qualities in his other parts of his life, a teacher and a coach. He brought that same quality to this. He was always teaching, coaching. I think, you're hearing how he, really got the most out of everyone who came to work on these beaches. And after all of these decades and kind of struggling, as has been sort of the health situation in the last couple of years, he still was fighting to put every bit of energy and passion and that same work ethic into this job, because he loves the beaches. He loves, when you hear him talk about the staff, the lifeguards, he talks about them the way people talk about their own children. Just an adoration. And, his goal is not to just have the beaches be safe and enjoyed, but also to have those lifeguards go off and take some lessons from the summers that they spend here. And I think, he's just a consummate teacher and coach, and he will, he's left his mark in Falmouth. And if he decided tomorrow he wanted to retire and relax, which he would never do, we'd have to drag him off of these beaches. But his legacy will continue on. It's imbued in the staff that has stayed. Maggie has a long history, and she's worked with Bruce, and we have individuals who come back year after year. And so, Bruce, you have forever left your mark on the town that you love and on the people that you love. And I can only imagine the hundreds of men and women who've come through as lifeguards and the life lessons that they've learned, that they've taken on to share in their circles that they have traveled in as they've left Falmouth. So thank you, and we expect to see you out here very soon, because there's a lot of seaweed. So take care.
Thank you, Megan. And in closing, I would just like to say, again, Bruce, thank you for everything that you've done for this town, the beaches, the schools, which are so dear to my heart. And I also want to thank Jessica for sharing her dad with all of us. Would you like to speak, Mr. Dufresne? Absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't see you. Come on.
Just a couple of words to go back probably 50 or 60 years with the beginning of the beach committee's authority. Back then we were elected, and the lifeguards came from out of town. And one of the things that I was so happy I was able to implement was the local hiring of local residents, high school residents. And we went through a process where the superintendent didn't call the shots, that we call the shots. It was an elected position, and when I challenged the original authority, I want to be damn sure that I gave them eight positions. This is Andy Dufresne, the beach commissioner, gave 8 positions to the superintendent, and the rest were going to be local employment. And I feel that that was the greatest accomplishment, I think, in my original beginning of my political career. That was my first elected position. And it's worked out very nicely. I look around at this building that we rebuilt after they thought we could not, and a number of other issues that we were able to accomplish. Bruce Magada was always at the head of the he was the brunt of what we dictated and did a hell of a job. And I'm here today to honor his accomplishments as a beach superintendent. And again, I thank everybody who has come here to honor Bruce Magato. Sometimes him and I didn't quite get along, but that's perfectly all right. He was bigger than me, so I had to back down. Thank you for listening.
Hi, Bruce, and anyone on FCTV. I'm Maggie Clayton. I am Bruce's number 2. I would not be here without him. It is my 15th year working for the department, and Bruce and I met when I worked postseason for Jim Grady and was climbing into the tombs, equipment lockers, and pulling out all the accumulation from the summer. And he said, "Why don't I know you?" I said, "Because I don't get in trouble." Hadn't been in his office. But after that, I became a lifeguard supervisor, a staff guard, and grew into this role because he gave me leadership opportunities. I used to be one of 57 lifeguards in a chair, but this department is a family, and it's made up of beach maintenance laborers and clerks and parking attendants and supervisors. And we come together for this brief moment, which can be a grueling tourist season on Cape Cod, but we show up with a smile, and we are the ambassadors of Falmouth. And every year, his most important message to all of us was that you are the face of Falmouth, you represent the town. We are here as a community service to keep people safe and allow them to have a fun, memorable experience here. And we're still doing it postseason weekends at Old Silver. Some of the staff was able to be here today, others were not, but all were informed of this moment of recognition. And I'm so grateful to we have 3 current and former beach committee chairs with us here, and Senator Moran, current and former select board members, town manager's office, department heads, our community services department head group, well represented here. So we're wrapping it up for you. You haven't had to call me since Hurricane Henri. I did the stuff I was supposed to do. Thank you all for being here.
Would anyone else like the opportunity to speak? Okay. Thank you. We wish you well, Bruce, and thank you for everything you've done to Falmouth. The Select Board will take a brief recess and reconvene at Town Hall by 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Greetings from the new Simply Hearing. Like everyone, we've made a lot of changes. We've always loved telling you about the teamwork and rapport that you find here, but now, for the sake of medical safety, we offer 4 types of services by appointment only. There's lots to be happy about with a new, more precise appointment plan made just for your needs. We also have a new, more transparent pricing structure. Start your path for better hearing and better life.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hi, I'm Bob from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, as a family-owned company, our goal has been simple: to give our neighbors of the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick out the perfect appliances. We'll take care of everything throughout the sale, delivery, and installation process. And we even have our own in-house service department. Crane Appliance, we call the Cape and Islands home.
Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server co-location, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
Thank you. I stated at our recognition of Bruce Magardo that Chair Brown will not be with us tonight. He, although fully vaccinated, he has contracted COVID-19 and therefore is not available tonight. So, firstly, I would like to read the proclamation. This month is Suicide Prevention Month, and I just would like to go through this. Whereas September is known as the Suicide Prevention Month, a time in which mental health advocates, individuals, prevention organizations, survivors, allies, and communities around the country unite to promote suicide prevention awareness. And whereas the past year has presented our communities with challenges and led to transitions that, expected or unexpected, welcomed or not, can be unsettling, disorienting, and stressful. And whereas the pandemic has changed our fabric of life, the major life changes are environmental risk factors for suicide. And whereas we, knowing that connecting, working with, and supporting one another can help prepare us for the future, and whereas, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among adults and the 2nd leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34 in the United States. And whereas more than 48,000 people die by suicide across the United States in 2019, with an average of 132 suicides completed daily. And whereas each suicide directly impacts a minimum of 100 additional people, including family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, and community members. And whereas local organizations like the Cape and Island Suicide Prevention Coalition encourage all residents to take the time to understand the importance of mental health education and recognize that taking care of ourselves and others includes taking care of our mental health. And whereas the town of Falmouth publicly places its full support behind those who work in the fields of mental health, education, and law enforcement. And whereas Barnstable residents are urged to play a role in suicide prevention and promote mental health and wellness as we strive towards reducing suicides. And whereas September is recognized across the United States as Suicide Prevention Month and provides the opportunity to educate our community about the warning signs for suicide and how to reach out and connect to those experiencing an emotional crisis. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that we, Douglas C. Brown, Nancy Robbins Taylor, Samuel H. Patterson, Megan English Braga, and Angela Scott Price do hereby proclaim the month of September 2021 as National Suicide Prevention Month.
Second. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
May I have a motion?
That was your motion, and I'll second it.
I'll take a vote.
So all those in favor?
All those
aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Madam Chair?
Yes.
I know you had mentioned about Doug Brown, and just people will notice Mr. Patterson isn't with us, and I think his was a planned travel.
Yes.
So.
And I was going to mention his absence as well. I just thought it was really important also to speak about COVID-19 and how it is continuing to impact us.
Mm-hmm.
Recognitions?
I guess I would just say maybe quickly, if for folks who didn't watch the earlier piece, we just were at the beach and we were recognizing and honoring the more than 5 decades of service that Bruce Magardo has given to the town of Falmouth in really advancing and taking care of and being a steward of our beaches and all the staff that works at our beaches. And so we, I hope folks, if they missed that at the 6:15 start, they can rewatch it on FCTV. And so we're just recognizing him, his tremendous work, and sending him our best wishes for a recovery, speedy recovery.
I have one as well.
Please.
I'd like to recognize Department of Public Works and everyone who worked to clear up the aftermath of Tropical Storm Ida. We received lots of updates from Julian, so thank you for those, and the quick work that was done by DPW to make sure that the roads were clear and everyone was kept safe.
Excellent. Thank you both. The other thing I just would like to mention was the memorial service at the Falmouth Fire Department, remembering September 11th. And I just want to thank Chief Smith for putting that together. It was quite an event.
Doesn't really ever get easier each year. That's what always
It
strikes me,
doesn't.
is 20 years out, it doesn't feel any lighter than 2 years out.
And maybe that's a good thing, so that we don't forget people who have fallen. Any announcements from the board?
I have an announcement. Just to announce that the Falmouth Police Department is starting their Citizens Police Academy again this week for the first time in several years. Unfortunately, I think Chief Dunn said that it's all full, all the spots that they have, but they're hoping to do it again in the spring. So if you're interested in that, I encourage people to attend.
Great.
Thank you. Public comment. Public comment may be made on routine matters not on the agenda this evening. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself. Since the matter has not been included on the agenda, the Board of Selectmen may not participate in discussion regarding the topic. It is not appropriate to use the public comment period to comment on any person's reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, disciplinary matters, or civil or criminal charges. Comments about job performance and decisions made are permissible. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, seeing none. Let's go to summary of actions. Licenses. Approve application for special one-day wine and malt liquor license, the Samaritans of Cape Cod and the Islands, Upper Cape Bocce Festival, Falmouth Academy, 7 Highland Drive, Saturday, September 18th, 2021.
Madam Chair, I would just disclose that I'm on the Board of Trustees for Falmouth Academy. I don't receive any benefit, but just to make sure that folks know that before we take a vote.
Appreciate that.
And with that, I would move approval for this event.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, approved. Vote to authorize letter of support for the Falmouth Housing Corp. Scranton Ave Main Street project. Do we have a draft?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll pass along, if I may, the copies of the draft of that proposed letter for you and the other members of the board's consideration as to potentially authorize. As you know, this is a project which staff members have had multiple meetings and reviews on. We'll be going to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And we have Linda Clark from the Housing Corporation with us this evening as well, should members of the board have a question for her.
Thank you, Mr. Suso.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
As the board is reading over the draft letter, some of the language may be familiar to you. We did have this project come before you for approval of a letter at the project eligibility and site application phase. So the select board has already voted its support for the project at that phase. And this letter highlights some of the same issues. If you like, for the public, I can highlight some of those aspects of the project.
That would be great. I guess my only question would be, does this language meet the needs of the Falmouth Housing Corp. to move forward? Because I know this is an important part of their process.
I believe it does. I did have an opportunity to share a draft with Linda Clark and attorney Laura Moynihan, but Linda can certainly confirm that if she likes.
Perfect. Yes. Please, Linda Clark, Falmouth Housing Corp.
Linda Clark, Falmouth Housing Corporation President. Yes, we did have an opportunity, our counsel, Laura Moynihan, and myself, to review the draft letter, and we were satisfied with what the town manager's office has written.
Great. So if you would like to make a few highlights, Mr. Johnson-Staub, that would be great, and then I will ask for a vote, because I believe this is a time-sensitive issue.
Thank you. So it is a time-sensitive issue, and that's why it's on your agenda. One thing I did want to mention is that there is an application for funding before the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund, of which the board are the trustees, and that is going to be coming to you as early as your next meeting. But because of the time sensitivity of the low-income housing tax credit application and the upcoming ZBA is opening a hearing for the comprehensive permit, there was a desire to have the select board go on the record again in support of this project this week. So briefly, to highlight more for the public, this is a development that is proposed for 763 Main Street and 24 Scranton Ave, the location of the former Cape Cod 5. It is on the sewer. It is right across from the senior center and the police station, so it is an ideal location for affordable housing, particularly for senior affordable housing, and that's what is proposed here. One of the points that I want to emphasize, in addition to this is 48 units, all of them affordable, so it's not one of those 25% affordable. This is all of the units are affordable. Not only are they affordable, they're targeted at deeply affordable income levels, specifically 9 units at 30% of area median income, 9 units at 50% of area median income, and 60%, the remaining 60%, 30 units at 60% of area median income. So to achieve that level of affordability requires quite a bit of subsidy funding. And so this project is only going to be possible with a combination of funding from the state through the low-income housing tax credits, as well as from the town. And it meets a priority need of elderly housing, elderly rental housing specifically.
Excellent, thank you. So we will I will take a vote on this, approving this letter. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And when do you need this letter by?
Thursday evening
Okay.
to the ZBA, if possible.
We will process it. It's been voted. We will process it and get it to you as soon as possible. My only other comment is I want to thank you for your work. And if we can do anything to help support the process, I know you work really well and closely with the town manager's office. So I'm hoping that we can meet all the aggressive timeline and get this done. This is an important
I am really hoping for that. I hope we're able to meet the deadlines. As we discussed, we're going to need a comp permit by the end of December in order to meet the deadline of funding, which is January 15th. If we don't meet that deadline, we will be delayed until 2023, January of, to apply for funding. So the project will be delayed a year.
Is there any reason that we cannot meet those state guidelines?
Well, the issue is that that we in the town manager's office cannot speak for the zoning board of appeals, right? So certainly I have spoken and will be speaking again with Noreen Stockman, the administrator for the zoning board of appeals, to make sure that she has all the resources she needs on the staff end. But the timeline and the number of hearings required are really the jurisdiction of the zoning board of appeals. So I hesitate to make a commitment on their behalf.
I understand that, and I hope that the town manager's office will really reinforce the importance of this project, and meaning I would hate to miss a year of funding, given what the town has told us in terms of the needs of affordable housing. So I think we need to make sure that we do everything that we can, make sure we meet the guidelines.
I appreciate it. I think it's helpful for you for the board to be saying that publicly so that we can carry that message with added weight to the zoning board.
That would
Thank
be
you.
great, and it is what the town is, I believe what the town is
Absolutely.
asking us to do.
Yeah, I
So-
think even though there's just the three of us, we've had this conversation many times. I think all 5 members of this board, support any project of this nature, but this project in particular is really going to hit, a major sort of missing piece of the puzzle for housing for our seniors and our elders. And it is clear that is just such a deficit. One of the many, but in our housing, portfolio. But, I think this board from the very beginning has been very supportive of this project. And so, I think we appreciate the fact that we're hearing that your town manager's office is trying to support the staff as, goes to the next, goes to the ZBA for the review there.
If we miss this round of funding, the project may be in jeopardy. There's not a question. We'll have to carry the land requisition loan for an additional year.
Mm-hmm.
We're nonprofit. It's difficult sometimes. I mean, we can't carry a piece of property forever because it's out of our pocket. So it's detrimental that we hopefully can get through this process by the end of December, and first round of funding is available to us with the comp permit. I know it's tight. I understand that. But we also have our hearing coming up, and we have spent a tremendous amount of time putting together the PowerPoint and putting together any questions that we may think the public or the town may have. So we feel like we have a pretty good handle on this. And in my opinion, we should be able to get through this in 2 hearings. You never know what can happen, but in my opinion, based on history and the projects I've been through.
I mean, the many good projects that you've shepherded through that are...
The many good ones.
Yes, that are really, just, people talk about some of those great projects in Falmouth. We have some really, the last few years have produced some really great...
And we just don't want to miss the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, things are going to change if we have to apply in 2023. I mean, you have construction costs that are going to change. There's a lot of money out there right now for state funding for affordable housing, especially seniors. That may change if we're delayed a year. So there's a lot to think about.
Would it be appropriate to ask for an update at each of our upcoming select board meetings until the end of the year on the progress of this?
Yes, that is appropriate.
Okay.
Happy to do so.
Yeah,
Sure.
sometimes we don't get to watch the ZBA meeting, so it'd be
Right.
helpful just to have a sense of where it's at.
It's a great request.
Well, thank
that
you
work?
very much. We appreciate your support. We're really, I mean, we're in it together, and we appreciate the town's support on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Okay, special events, Blues and Views. The applicant requested a change of date and time from the originally requested October 20th at 6 p.m. through 8 p.m. to Sunday, October 17th at from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. The change was requested due to the possibility of uncomfortably cool weather in the evening of October 20th.
That's fair.
The board, you have had an opportunity to review the application.
I would move approval. They've had other events and they've gone without incident.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved unanimously.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay. So we have the flow neutral bylaw evaluation of request for variance, Eel Pond Realty LLC, 87 Water Street, Woods Hole. And by request of the applicant, we are going to push that off until September 27th.
Correct. 7:30 p.m. Continuance.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Do we expect to have more information by that date? Are they working on more information, or is just another reason for continuing?
They just, I think, wanted the 5 members of the board.
The board here.
Full
Okay.
board.
Yeah, full board to vote.
Okay.
Great question.
Thank you.
And then could I, Madam Chair, could I just go back for a minute? I just want folks to know that that concert, the Blues and Views, it is a concert where they are raising awareness and support for Falmouth homeless prevention. So it's actually a group of people that have worked with Linda Clark and with some other organizations, and they have the concert's free. They do ask for, at some point, for folks to make a donation if they'd like to, but that money does go, along with some of the money from the Kerwin-Murray Tour de Falmouth bike race, to go to Falmouth homelessness prevention. And they've actually done really well in the last few years with some of those functions. So hopefully folks can support them.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. Under business, discussion update on COVID-19 issues. I do not see our health agent here. He may be.
And Madam
Yes.
Chair, they had a Board of Health meeting underway, so there may be a little tardy getting here.
That's
Perhaps
fine.
we can
We'll
jump
take
over
him
that.
out of order. Okay, so we're going to hold that. Discussion on proposed remote participation policy for boards, committees.
Town Council Frank Duffy was to be with us as well, and I think he's going to get here in 8 minutes. So perhaps you want to...
Am I moving too fast?
No,
By
we
any
are ahead of the
slim
sync, but that's
chance?
wonderful.
Have we ever had this problem?
Is he coming in, Mr. Finneran? Thank you. There he is. Right on cue.
Yeah.
I was hoping Pete would give me 10 minutes, but he gives me 30 seconds.
Health agent Scott McGann here to give us an update on COVID-19 issues in Falmouth.
How's everybody? So we've had a tougher 3 weeks now, 2.5 weeks from when we were, if you can look at, let's say, start looking at May in the far right-hand corner, you can see we're really low. Delta kicks in, we start getting into the 30 per week. So we've had 2 consecutive weeks, roughly around 57 to 65. This week is about halfway through our week, and it's at 30, so I think we're going to be sort of similar week. You can see I put it in yellow after last time we talked, not to put it in red. So.
No red.
You can see that we're probably going to be right around that same number. There's a couple of clusters that have counted for probably 20% of that. Wedding party that had quite a few cases. We have a long-term care as well. You add those up, probably about somewhere around 35 of those, but still a higher number. So, we've had an increase. In terms of the county itself, you can see that incidence rate's a little bit higher. We're at 20 per 100,000 daily cases. Since Falmouth has roughly 33 or so thousand people, you divide that by 3, that's about a 7 per day average for those 2 weeks. And you can see we're sort of in the middle from where rest of the counties are, rest of the towns in the county are. And it's a little higher from us. We usually were on the middle to a slightly better half of that. And you can see that we're a little bit more towards the middle to the slightly high, still lower than the county itself at 27 per 100,000. We're at 21-ish. So in terms of our cases, I think everybody's just a bit higher, up to, like I said, 60. It's not what I was hoping to see, but I think with our vaccination rate, you're seeing a lot of vaccine breakthrough, but the vaccine breakthrough seems to lend itself to more mild. So what you're hearing on TV here about get vaccinated, there may be breakthrough cases. Yeah, they're definitely breakthrough cases, but the cases tend to be a lot more mild, and I would definitely see that. I think the hospitalization rate among the vaccinated people in the state of Massachusetts is 3.9%, with a death rate well under 1%. So we weren't getting those numbers before we were vaccinated. With regular COVID, knowing that Delta is a bit strong, much more strong than the others, than the original version or any previous versions. So in terms of mitigation, where would we be? So you can see in the upper chart that I have that yellow line that goes through between moderate and substantial. So the state's not really giving any guidance on whether we want to do mandates and things of that nature. So what I've used is the CDC's guidance. And the CDC says if you're in the moderate to substantial, and when you get into substantial, you need to consider mitigation strategies such as mask mandates and so forth. You can see where we are at low for our percent positivity. That's just the number of tests and the number of positives for the total number of tests. And we're gaining a bit, but we're still in the low. We're at 3.67. Our incidence rate is at 20.6, which is a gain of 7. So that's a big jump. We've had a bad couple weeks. This took in a little bit of the week previous that we had a better week on, but you can see that we're up about 8. But we're still not anywhere near substantial. Substantial would mean about 115 cases per week. That would put us somewhere in the substantial. So we're about halfway to substantial. So in the lack of guidance from the state, that's sort of the line. I made it that color because it's sort of like the line in the sand that the Board of Health and we spoke about whether we would start implementing other mitigation, and that's sort of where the line is. Are we creeping towards it? Yes. But are we there? No. And the other things that we should be looking at would be hospitalizations. This just got another chart. I think we're 3 and 3 at Falmouth Hospital. So we were at 4 and 1 earlier last week.
Wait, can you just say
3 and 3? Sorry, 3.
Oh,
3
I see.
Sorry, we're at 4 and 1. Sorry to be so fast.
No, that's okay. I just didn't know where you were looking. I see what you're
So we're at 4 and 1 for Falmouth Hospital. 4 in the hospital, 1 in the ICU, 4 and 1 ICU patient. We're at 3 and 3 as of today. And I think Cape Cod's pretty similar. It's in the low teens. It's not at a point where it's stressing the system at this point, but it's definitely less than it would be if we weren't vaccinated. If we weren't vaccinated, had Delta, this numbers would be much, much higher, no doubt about it. The other thing we're supposed to look at is our vaccination rates. Our vaccination rates were at 79.6. So just if you round it up, let's round up for today. We'll go 80% of all eligible residents are pretty much fully vaccinated. So that's a good number. You can't get much better than that. Well, I'd like to see it better, but I don't know if you can. Let me just click this off. So we're averaging about 210 to 300. This week was 210. I think it was 320 or something last week. So in terms of our vaccination rates, we're definitely well above average. And so we just, again, if you want to look at detail, I have that on the next chart. So you see that we're, we've fully vaccinated 22,509 residents. It's a pretty good number. And so, if you look at those 3 things, you look at our vaccination rate, you look at our hospitalizations, we check, we're doing okay with that. You look at incidence rates, you say, well, we're starting to creep up. We may need to think about in the future, maybe if we had to, we'd do something about it. But at this point, I'm going to talk to the board in the next half hour or so. We're a little long on our meeting about this issue. So that's where we are with that. In terms of third doses, we're starting to get a lot of questions for third doses. I don't call them booster shots because they are the same dose. It's the same shot. So you'll see in people with moderate to severe immune compromise, if you're immune compromised, you need to contact your physician. If they determine you need for a third dose, then you should get it. The pharmacies have it. I just got an email last week from the state who had asked us about what our capabilities are at each town, and we have plenty of capabilities with Participle County and the VNA. So I think this time around, if you remember how frustrating it was to get a shot, it was very frustrating to be a health agent, kind of helpless because I can't get you, I can't order them. I think things will be different this time around. I think because we're not going to have mass vaccination sites, you're going to see maybe more of a dependence on us to do it. We don't know yet. We don't have their game plan, but we'll be able to do it. Like we could do things, we'll have the fairgrounds, maybe again with the Barnstable County doing the fairground drive-through, and we could do things at schools, we can do things at senior centers, we could do things at the rec center, we could do things at the high school, we could do different clinics, we could use the VNA for some, we could use Barnstable County for others. So, whatever involvement the state wants from towns, whether it's a bigger chunk of the pie this time around or whatever it happens to be, here we'll be able to do it. So, you'll start seeing, you should be getting more information in the next couple of weeks, I think, about how it's going to roll out. They haven't told us exactly how it's going to roll out. Right now, they've just said immune-compromised individuals, regardless of age. My guess is you would start similar to what we did, go with age and work our way down. First responders, then by age, because they're the ones that have the oldest they have the oldest shots, so to speak. They got the shots earliest, and we know that the longer it sits, the longer it goes between your series of 2 or 1, whatever you happen to have, to when you get your third dose, the longer you go, the more waning immunity, especially with age. So if you look at those two things, you did your older people first. Those should probably be how they're going to roll it out in reverse, is probably how I would think will happen with it. So, any questions?
No.
So we'll, like I said, we'll just keep staying on top of it. We do the contact tracings, all the same stuff. Barnstable County got a big grant to do some of the contact tracing. They hired epidemiologists at the county level, so we'll definitely take advantage of that. That'll help as well. So.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
As always.
Sorry I had to run up here and breathe in heavy. I can run back down.
Back in that basement.
And I'll see you back up at 8:40, right? Because we have.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. Discussion, vote on proposed remote participation policy for boards and committees. And I see that we have Town Council Frank Duffy here to walk us through that.
Madam Chair, I looked at the notice of meeting and I thought I was getting here 15 minutes early. Instead
We're moving fast
I guess you
tonight.
are, moving with lightning speed. This is a remote participation policy which I've submitted to you for review. Just a little background. I was here before this board about 10 years ago with the same subject. You probably don't remember it because it was a different board. But at that time, the board declined to do it probably for a couple of reasons. One, they didn't see a need for it at the time. And secondly, there were some questions about how it would operate. But subsequently, a couple of things have happened. Number one, we now, I think, have a need for it. We have people who are unable to physically attend meetings who actually can participate and participate appropriately if they can do it remotely. In fact, it's one of those exact same situations that was the genesis of my bringing this to you today. We do have a couple of people on boards who cannot, for various reasons, be present, but they are able to participate. The other one is that the Attorney General has promulgated regulations telling us how to do it. So that was something that didn't exist the last time. So now we've put together this remote participation policy, and it is based upon Attorney General regulations. And it applies to members of a board or a committee who want to participate in the meeting but cannot do so for several reasons, which I'll get to in a minute. The person who is going to participate remotely does, first of all, there must be a quorum of the body present physically at the meeting. Right. So you can't use the person who's remote to count to the quorum. The other thing I want to point out is that there are now defined reasons for remote participation, such as personal illness, personal disability, emergency, military service, or geographic distance, which I guess is another fancy way of saying vacation. Okay. There are approved technologies. You may use a telephone, and when that is the case, you put a telephone on speaker somewhere in the room. You can also do it by internet, video conferencing, or any other means, provided that the technology must enable the remote participant and all persons present at the meeting location to be clearly audible to one another. Then there are provisions for what happens if there's a break in the communication. You can suspend the meeting until you fix the problem if there's a technical difficulty. If that person who's remotely participating is permanently disconnected, the meeting goes on. You simply note in the minutes of the meeting that the interruption occurred. So the procedure for it is a member of a public body who wishes to participate remotely shall notify the chair in advance, who will then make the necessary arrangements for the remote participation. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair must announce that a member is participating remotely and also give the reason for the remote participation. You don't have to give any details, but just a basic reason. When you have a member participating remotely, all votes must be taken by roll call vote so that the person who's remotely participating can vote. If you can do this for an executive session, and if it's an executive session, the person who is participating remotely must certify to the chair that no other persons are present in the room where they are or able to hear the discussion of the executive session. And finally, and this is a very important part, when you have somebody, and this is why you also want to have advance notice that somebody's going to participate remotely, you have to send them all documents, including plans, exhibits, and anything else that there's going to be introduced at the meeting, so they have the same information that you do when they participate and vote. So this is a procedure that has been adopted probably in most towns now. It does, the regulations do require that the Board of Selectmen adopt this policy. And going forward, it will allow, in those instances where you have a member of a board or a committee who's unable to participate physically, they can do so remotely. Now, this policy does not apply to the public. That's a separate issue. This is not a hybrid meeting or anything like that. This is a situation to allow remote participation by a member under the strict circumstances in the policy.
Questions from the board?
Actually, Frank just answered my question, so good.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a question, but just I think I agree that I think it's long overdue. We have members of boards that sometimes something happens and they are away or whatever it might be, they're ill, but they really would be able to participate in the meeting otherwise, in their viewpoint, their perspective, their representation of constituents. It would be important at that meeting. So I think it's I do think that it's outlined, Frank, in your piece of it, where it points out that this isn't a reason for sort of chronic in attendance or absence rather. It is for sort of select situations, and I do think that that is helpful. It may help with bringing more people who want to participate in some of these committees or boards, who know that they maybe sometimes have, I'm thinking about the Commission on Disability. Some folks sometimes have issues with transportation, and they may be hesitant to want to join a committee because either their health or their transportation may not be, something that's 100% of the time. So I think if we have a policy like this, it allows for a little bit of that flexibility for just normal life circumstances that everybody has. Being on a board or a committee shouldn't bring additional stress to folks' lives when they want to participate and run into those things. So I think it's, I think obviously COVID pushed this along.
It certainly did, and if you see fit to adopt this tonight, we will send this policy along with some additional information to chairs of all boards and committees so that they can utilize it.
Maybe I just make one suggestion or kind of a question. Step 2 says the chair's statement does not need to contain any detail about the reason for members' remote participation. Could we just put doesn't need? I know it says does not need to, but I just wonder if someone has a medical issue and they don't necessarily want that to be known. Is there a way that could be informed to the chair, but not to the members participating?
I think it can be within the discretion of the chair making the announcement. Just say we've been notified that so-and-so is unable to attend, and leave it at that.
Okay.
And I think if we stick to the reasons for the remote participation, it should cover it, whether it's personal illness, disability, emergency, military service, or geographic distance. I think we'd want to keep it.
And if the chair gets a request for remote participation and no reason, you can say no. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah, that is good to know.
Any other questions or comments about this policy? And do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as written.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Frank.
Unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I ask a sort of related question
Yes,
just of
please.
Julian and Peter? I know that we had talked about not running hybrid meetings because it can be complex. Just knowing that we may, I just sort of thinking forward to what winter might look like if we're having some of the numbers that Scott's talking about. Will there be an opportunity to think about and have a discussion further about what those meetings might look like?
We are exploring that.
Okay.
With IT.
Okay.
And
I know
so
it's an
we'd be
extra
in-
layer of work, but.
It's it's an extra challenge, particularly challenging to manage the meeting for the chair between virtual and in person, and some additional staffing requirements. But we are exploring that in preparation for the board potentially wanting to give that a go.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are still ahead of ourselves. So I'm going to request that we take a few things out of order. I would like to talk about the discussion on acquisition of placement of radar feedback signs on Woods Hole Road. But firstly, I'd like a motion to take things out of order on the agenda.
Motion to take things out of order on the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, thank you. So let's go to number 9, please. Discussion on acquisition placement of radar feedback signs on Woods Hole Road.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As board members are aware, this has been talked about generally regarding concerns over traffic related to steamship authority. It's an issue which has arisen many times historically, and most recently, we've actually have a petition meeting, petition warrant article, which board's aware has come in, and you'll be considering placing on the warrant this evening, that relates to setting aside funds for this specific purpose. I want to confirm that I have been meeting with Public Works Director Peter McConerty and Police Chief Ed Dunn, and we have discussed this situation, and we are continue to explore it, looking at possibilities, potential locations, and related issues. And Peter is with us tonight, which I appreciate very much, to assist me in answering questions. Chief Dunn was not able to be with us tonight, but we're going to be continuing to meet on that, and we anticipate, given the petition article, with that placed on the warrant, that there'll be some discussion about it at the upcoming town meeting as well. So our staff work is in furtherance of anticipating that and being prepared for it. We also want to underscore, as Peter has noted in the past, we want to remind the board is that MassDOT oversees that, controls it, so any proposals would need to go to them, be reviewed by them, ultimately to be approved by them. And the reason that's significant is the board is aware the kind of timetable we've had with the proposed design and location of a hawk signal for Goodwill Park, the pedestrian crossing. That's involved MassDOT, and these things take time. This is less complicated than a hawk signal. However, there would be multiple locations, so MassDOT, to be fair to them, certainly there would be some significant time placed in that and some feedback and evaluation for us internally prior to moving forward as well. If it would be appropriate, Peter might care to make a few remarks also.
Good evening, Peter McConerty, Director of Public Works. As town manager has indicated, the signage would be going within the Woods Hole Road layout, so it would be going through Mass DOT. Previous experiences with the DOT is that it does take a good amount of time to have the permits go through Mass DOT. You have to get a road access permit. You have to show them a temporary traffic detour plan. So there's a lot of information that they'll be looking for, surveys, and you meet with the DOT representatives along the roadway. So it would take a bit of time, but that's something that, for the most part, it can be, all the engineering and the design part and the permits can be done in-house. We would not need to go to our consultant to get any additional information. DOT, they approve only certain brands and certain, of technology for the rapid flash and speed radar, speed feedback signs, but we've done it in the past, and it's pretty much the technology that we have today that we're using. There's multiple vendors out there, so they just want to make sure that it's approved through Mass DOT, but we've done it in the past, and I think it's something that we'll be able to handle within Public Works with no problem.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I don't have a question. I would just vote to move forward with it, just given exactly what Peter and Julian are saying. The timeline is always very lengthy.
Yeah.
With with Mass DOT, this is an issue that we get emails almost every week on. I mean, my office is right on Locust Street,
right.
And people are flying because they're trying to make the ferry, and it is a place that I think we just have a lot of concern from the public on, and we know this is going to be a long process. So I would like to see us just kind of get it underway, knowing that it's going to take a little while to get there.
I'd like to just make a note that we did receive one email of someone who lives in that area who said that they were not interested in having this on Woods Hole Road. I just wanted that to be into the record.
Yes, we did. Good point.
Thank you.
And just for a comparison, Public Works recently installed some of these rapid flash and the speed radar feedback signs on Route 151. So we put 6 of them up there. They work well. At some points, though, I mean, they do need maintenance. The boards do burn out on them, and they do need repair periodically. But that'll be a similar design to what we'd be looking at. Solar power. Would be looking at something that it's open to the southern horizon, because that's where the photovoltaic board would be pointing towards. But there's plenty of areas on Woods Hole Road that would be able to. So we'd be looking to set it off the road, approximately 8 to 10 feet off the road. So it doesn't get hit by snow plows. It doesn't get hit by, when there's slush in the roads, it's not getting knocked over and getting hit in the signs.
And the ones on 151 get your attention, but they're not. It's not the flashing light at the Locust Street crossing. So for folks who are concerned, it does catch your attention because it's showing your speed. So it always gets your attention, but it's not that much in your face. So it's kind of a good balance.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of confusion is that we've installed them at all the school locations in through town. So in the school locations, you actually get the flashing light with it when school's in session. So yeah, if that is out in front of someone's residence continuously flashing, there might be some annoyance. But these will they're activated when a vehicle comes on to them, and it's just the indicators of the strobes flashing, and then they turn off once it's completed.
Thank you. And I do anticipate some public comments at town meeting regarding that warrant article.
Yep.
But thank you very
Be able
much,
to speak to that.
Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
We will proceed to members of the board. Thank you for that direction.
You're welcome. Okay, let's review and vote to approve minutes. Now, there's a typo here. We do not have meeting minutes for 8:30. We just have the executive session. And I do have one comment. I saw one mistake. Okay, on Monday, June 7th, the meeting on page, the pages are not numbered. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. On the 5th page, on the very top, it says Bruce Morgadam. If we could just make that correction.
Got it.
With that correction, I would move approval of the meetings from June 7th.
I have a motion to approve the meetings of June 7th.
Second.
And motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous approved. Thank you. And I would just say that we approve them with that one change. Okay, so executive session August 30th.
I would move to approve. And I think we can release these, correct? Because everything in it has been settled.
Correct.
Okay, so I move approval and to release the minutes from the executive session of August 30th, 2021.
Second, move to approve.
Okay.
Second, approval and release.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the executive session minutes of Monday, August 30th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Approved. Individual select board reports.
I do not have anything to share.
I guess I would just share, I had sent an email about the possibility, maybe, Mr. Suso, of getting, with obviously the concurrence of Chairman Doug Brown, to get a group of folks together to talk about some of the next potential developments for the Shining Sea Bikeway, the extensions. That, you know, there's some exciting stuff happening, obviously, with the bridges, and that there may be some options there. So I would just hope that we could try and get a meeting of folks together for that. Perhaps Senator Moran, you know, might be helpful, someone from Bikeways and Pedestrians, to just have a discussion so that we can, you know, just start to think about what other options might be there.
As a select board agenda item, bring that group in and discuss it.
And we can see what, I don't know what the timing looks like, but yes, if either as a select board agenda item, or if we have to have a conversation first through Bikeway, however it works. But I would just like to, I know some of it might be time sensitive, just the way that some of the funding is coming for some of that bridge work.
Anything else from the board? Okay, I'd like to hear the town manager's report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple items. My compliments to our colleagues in the school department for a fairly quiet and seamless start to the new school year last week. We understand the challenges presented by the return to in-person classes during the continuation of this pandemic. So well done, and we look forward to continuing to work closely with them as this school year further unfolds. The planned pedestrian and bicycle access improvements to Catherine Lee Bates Road between Mullen Hall School and just beyond the post office, really a rear, sort of a back pedestrian entryway to Lawrence School. That is well underway and continuing. This enhancement will significantly improve the safety of students and all others moving between Mullen Hall School and Lawrence School along Shiverick's Pond, while making this attractive view shed much more available, and ultimately it is a step in the loop which has been proposed around Shiverick's Pond and been talked about for some time. So we're very pleased that working with Public Works, Lawrence Lynch, our a private contractor, is moving forward. They're placing the curbing there for the expanded sidewalk, which will really enhance the functionality of that entire area. And it is the latest step that includes a complete street component as well. So then the next piece of that will be moving further toward Route 28 to the west, I believe would be, yeah, I want to say to the west. And that is a separate project to come down the road a little bit. We're also, I was pleased to attend as has been noted, the 20th anniversary 911 memorial ceremony at the Memorial Circle at the Fire Department, Fire and Rescue Headquarters, and my compliments as well to our colleagues in the Fire Department and all of public safety for their fine work and their recognition of the importance of thoughtfully recognizing this important anniversary every year. I know that some communities have ceased to recognize that every year, but I'm very proud of the fact that Falmouth, in the Fire Department's lead and others, continues to do so. And it is amazing to all of us that 20 years have passed. Also want to note that I attended the Finance Committee meeting this past Tuesday. They have another meeting tomorrow evening, and the Finance Committee, is, I know the board is well aware, is anxiously awaiting your execution of the warrant articles. They will begin their work on those as soon as you complete the execution of that warrant, and they will begin their committee and subcommittee work with myself and other staff members, Finance Director Jennifer Mullen as well, and begin that process, which is set by the schedule that you've laid out. Also, the board's next regular meeting will be Monday, September 27th. And my compliments to our friends that operate the every year, the Arts Alive Festival. It happened very successfully this past weekend downtown, and we're very pleased and appreciative of their fine work. And lastly, Madam Chair, a reminder to the board, I had noted with an email, but it would appear on your next agenda. We do have, unfortunately, 2 American elms that are past their useful life, are deteriorating rapidly in spite of all the efforts to maintain them. And we have scheduled a shade tree hearing to bring to the board our tree warden's recommendation that those trees be removed before someone is hurt by falling limbs or, God forbid, a falling tree. Because of the size of those, it would be very devastating. So that is coming up at your meeting on the 27th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? And I apologize, Julian, I didn't send you an email about this beforehand, but can you give us an update on the new DEI officer that's been, I'm sorry, I keep saying DEI officer, that's what they're doing in Woods Hole. The new diversity and inclusion.
Certainly, happy to. And I apologize because I've forgotten Jacqueline's last name.
Hartman, I think.
Hartman, thank you. Yes, Jackie Hartman will be joining us the end of the second Monday in October, I believe it is. I forget what that date is, but it is in October. And we'll be having, Jackie's office will be in the school administration building, and we'll be working through transition and on both the school and the town side. And we're just thrilled to have her joining us. She is going through preparations for essentially relocating to this area since she is coming from some distance in New York City, as the board may be aware. And we're very anxious to have her join us and looking forward to it with great anticipation.
Great, thank you.
Certainly.
Great follow-up. Great question. Okay, I think I'm going to bounce back. Do we have people here who need to be interviewed, and do we need to make a vote for community members for the Falmouth Housing Authority Tenant Board? Not yet? And how about,
Could I ask a
yes,
quick question?
please.
Just because if it's not on my mind, if I don't say it now, I'll forget it.
Absolutely.
But for Julian and Peter, somewhere down the road, obviously again, with Chairman Brown's, concurrence, but I think it would be really helpful, because I don't think we've done this since we've had some new members on the board, but if we could have a joint meeting, maybe sometime after town meeting, with the Finance Committee at some point in time. We haven't done that. I think since we had the meeting for the override, and that was just on one topic, but it might be nice to have a joint meeting and to just have some discussion and to hear from Finance Committee if there are things that this board can do to sort of supplement, support their work, and maybe we can think of some broad agenda items for subject matter. But we haven't met with them in a long time, and I think we keep working in these. We take everything and we send it to them, and I'll be honest, I don't even know all of the members. It's turned over so much. I don't think I can put a face and a name to every single member. It might be nice for us to be able to meet with them and just have some discussion. And
sounds great.
That'd be good.
It is a great idea, and to also sort of understand their thought process in terms of what their recommendations are for the articles. I think that would be really helpful. It's a great idea.
Did you want to have that meeting after town meeting then, or prior to?
I guess maybe see what I don't know what their schedule is full, and I know
maybe a little daunting before
pinch
town
for this
meeting.
town meeting.
Certainly
but-
after town meeting, we can start to look at
Yes.
dates, and I'll certainly reach out to the Finance Committee and transmit that
It
suggestion.
would just be nice to
Great thought.
hear, we've
agree.
changed so much with the way we do our budgeting, and I think everyone in general agrees that it's a better process, but I'd love to just be able to have a dialogue with them. We haven't done that in a long time. Thank you.
It's a great
Sorry,
idea.
I didn't mean to go on.
Oh, I think that's a really good point. So is retired Lieutenant Colonel Elizabeth Sweeney here?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to join us at the podium, please?
I would love to. Thank you very much for the honor. Mask, no mask.
You can remove your mask when you're speaking at the podium. That's fine.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and this is such an honor to be nominated for this position. Colonel Ed Van Kuren was a mentor of mine. He worked for my dad. My dad was General Charles W. Sweeney, who he just dedicated the bridge in Quincy this weekend
Yes, a
to
big
7
event.
generals.
Yes,
Any of you know
amazing.
about that?
Yeah, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law were sponsors and went, and I saw the picture. It was really incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And so I'm a 33-year veteran of the Air National Guard. I have with my friend Sharon Rich, Chief Sharon Rich, who would like to be my wingman on this operation to help me with all the administrative pieces and all of the other pieces that go with this. I have a true dedication, obviously, to this country. My dad was the pilot that dropped the bomb on Nagasaki on August 9th in 1945. I joined the military, and I'm one of 10 children. I joined the military in 1976, and I served 33 years of honorable service, and it served in 3 wars. Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Noble, Noble Eagle, and so I would be very honored to serve this town in that capacity. I've been a guest speaker at the Veterans Parade in the past with Don Lincoln and Julie Kramer, so I believe I have and this is my home, and this is where I retired to, and after 33 years military service, so your endorsement will be wonderful, and that's... Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Thank you for your service.
That's exactly
you're
what I
very
was going to
welcome.
say. Firstly and foremost,
Absolutely.
thank you for your service
Thank you
to our
very
country.
much.
Oh, your resume is
Amazing.
amazing.
Well, it's actually my biography, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, resume, biography, yeah. So, yes, I have an obligation to this country and to this town, and I would be honored to serve in this capacity, but I would obviously need your approval.
Yes.
Pardon my ignorance, I don't see a date on here, so is it just an approval forever?
Forever. Those are the approvals we like.
forever.
I do think, I don't know that it has a term.
I think it's just a floating appointment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Until
it's
she
the
maybe
board
doesn't
update.
want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I would be very honored and have close ties to this community and close ties to Joint Base Cape Cod. And again, I would be very honored to serve in this capacity to heal with Colonel Ed Van Kuren. So your nomination will be appreciated.
Definitely move approval to appoint retired Lieutenant Colonel Elizabeth S. Sweeney for Falmouth Lodge number 2380, BPO Elks Representative.
I enthusiastically second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you for
Thank you
service on the
so
Veterans
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you read that because I was going to motion, but I don't know what happened.
Congratulations, well done.
I disappoint you, and I hope that I service this community as well as you service me.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless.
And I don't see our people for the Falmouth Housing Authority Tenant Board, so I think what I'd like to do is ask Judy Fenwick to do her report from the Board of Library of Trustees.
Right.
And you will have 15 minutes, Judy.
Thank you very much. So the word privilege has been used earlier this evening, and I also want to add that I feel privileged to be addressing the Select Board this evening for a year-end review of the Board of Library Trustees. We were scheduled March of 2020, but that never happened, and it would have been the previous chair. So I'm new at this, so bear with me. My email invitation included a request to submit a brief verbal report, 15 minutes or less, and a written report, including attendance. And I did not submit a written report for your packets because you're going to be getting a written report from the Board of Library Trustees for the annual town report. And I figured you could do with less paper. But I will give you a quick overview of the trustees' attendance because that will introduce you to the names of the trustees. This sounds like a high school award ceremony. 4 trustees had perfect attendance for all 12 meetings, 11 of which were via Zoom, and the last one in June in person. And those were Jennifer Alai, myself, Margot Fennell, and Kathy Mount. One trustee, Catherine Elder, missed one meeting and 2 trustees, Lindsay Hopewood and Sylvia Shulkin, missed 2 meetings. And a lot of those were because of connectivity issues via Zoom. Margot Fennell retired from the board in May 2021, and Lucy Helfrich has joined the board as our newest trustee. So all the remarks I make this evening are possible because of a very dedicated staff at the library and a collegial and collaborative board of library trustees. Some adjectives that the trustees and the library director have used to describe this past year are challenging, unprecedented, zoomed out. We found other words to describe what we accomplished in the months after March 2020. New opportunities, transformation, reinvention, increased partnerships, more outreach. Is that a signal that I've talked too much? Okay.
That would be too subtle. It would have to be much louder.
Okay. More outreach and expansion of digital access. During this reporting period, many libraries across the United States discovered new needs for their communities, and hopefully many of these new needs that Falmouth filled will become a permanent and growing part of our library portfolio. So during the summer and fall of 2020, the library strengthened its Wi-Fi access to reach more outside areas at its 3 locations. So think East Falmouth and Smitty's. The trustees, in partnership with the town, supported the installation of the green metal picnic tables on the lawn. We hope that's a tradition that will continue, considering it has this year as well. Internet access was increased in the community through Wi-Fi hotspots and Chromebooks that could be checked out of the library. That is going to continue and be increased. The trustees partnered with the Falmouth Village Association to offer movies under the stars for families, and again in 2020 the program. The library expanded digital access to more online programs and services in support of increased digital literacy. Online programs were launched via Zoom instead of in person, and the library increased use of its outdoor spaces, and we think that's going to be continuing as well. We strengthened partnerships with the schools and the senior center, and we offered takeout as curbside pickup, just like most of the local restaurants in town were doing because the library buildings were closed to inside access. So what were the trustees specifically doing during this period? In the early summer 2020, the trustees thanked all the library staff for their dedication to serving the community during lockdown and closures, with personal notes that the trustees sent to each of the staff members along with gift cards for Maison Villette when it reopened. And the Falmouth Public Library was the only public library to remain fully staffed on the Cape and Islands during late March and up until early May. In November 2020, the trustees were updated on development of the library's 5-year strategic plan, which will cover 2022 to 2027. You know what a good time that can be. The working group consisted of 2 trustees, the library and assistant library directors, community members, along with a consultant who helped us to get the plan into shape. Its submission would be done when the 2020 census data was received, we thought in September or October. We got that data earlier. We submitted it, I think, the very end of August, and received word last Friday that the plan meets all the state's Library Services and Technology Act planning requirements, and this acceptance opens the way for the library to continue applying for grants from the Mass Library Board of Commissioners. And although not within this reporting period, the trustees were delighted to participate as volunteers in the August 26 to 30 Friends of Falmouth Public Library book sale. And I've got to say it felt like a grand reopening of the library, and the community responded by thronging to the book sale and helping the Friends raise more than $60,000. Wow. That is nowhere near what they have raised in the past. Right. This was a scaled-back library sale, and the support of the Friends to the trustees and to the library is immeasurable. You know, the MasterCard ad about, putting a price on things. I mean, what they do is priceless. We have been busy, and we like it that way. The mantra that I've learned to live with in my role as a trustee this last year was the pandemic can inform our work, but it should not define it. And there's a term, felix culpa, which translates as happy fault. You've heard of mea culpa, my fault. Mm-hmm. Felix culpa, it means that out of disasters, sometimes good actions can come. And I say that so many attributes that I mentioned at the beginning, such as new opportunities, transformation, reinvention, increased partnerships, more outreach and expansion of digital access, are some of those things that I think came out of operating under a pandemic. And it got us into new ways of working and thinking about our mission. And those ideas will hopefully continue to expand and evolve. And none of our work, again, would be possible without the dedicated Falmouth Public Library staff. We know as a board that they are essential workers, not only in heart but in mind. I have a question. Who is the new liaison to the Falmouth Board of Library Trustees? Don't make eye contact, right?
I don't know.
We'll have to get back to you on
I
that.
do
I don't
not
have
know
that
either.
with
All
me.
right. Doug Brown told me that it was posted somewhere on the town's website, but I couldn't find it. And we would just like to welcome them to come, he or she, to come to a meeting.
I think it's
So.
me.
It might be, we just redid them again
Okay.
recently because some of the assignments that we initially did at reorganization, people got committees that met at the same time.
Okay.
And so we just redid it
Oh,
not too
I
many
can be
meetings ago,
patient.
so.
And I know that you don't go to every meeting. So, do you have any questions for me?
I guess, may I ask a question just
Yes.
about North Falmouth? Can you just tell the public a little bit? Because I know, I don't know if the public understands how much happened in the last year or so in North Falmouth, sort of, just kind of those really wonderful improvements.
Yes.
So
Yes.
maybe just take an opportunity to let people know.
That was a collaborative effort between the trustees and a few folks on the Falmouth Public Library Support Fund, which is a 501c3 that helps to enhance. Different from the earned income that the Friends make, the support fund has assets that they can help. And so a total reshingling of the building, a replacement of windows, cutting down some trees that were detrimental, a new walkway, I think some paving took place, and new landscaping. And so that's added another 15 years to a building we were really considering, might have trouble being compromised. So that's allowing us to now turn our attentions to a renovation of East Falmouth. And that's going to be something brought up and developed in our strategic plan. But we realize that the East Falmouth Library serves a very underserved part of the community, and it needs to be expanded to contain meeting space so there's more of a community center out there, and to increase other assets of the library. So more on that to come in the next 5 years. And I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm currently the chair of the Board of Library Trustees, which gets me all sorts of perks. Any other questions?
Any other questions from the board?
No, thank you, Judy.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you,
Thank
Judy,
you so
very
much
much.
for your work. So I want to go back and just take a look at the Falmouth Housing Authority Tenant Board. And if I look at the notes, have we indeed interviewed all of the applicants? It looks like the notes say
All
that.
but three.
Okay.
All but three which
Are on this.
have been invited, and we understood were going to be coming tonight, and that was the case with one or two the last time as well.
And so that is exactly how I read it. But when I look at the notes that I took out of this packet, it says like 8:30. I thought those were dates that we had interviewed them, but
I think they're dates that they were on the
Going
agenda
to?
again, and some didn't come. I think
Okay.
it was the different dates that they were
Perfect.
also on the agenda
okay,
to
so
show up. And
we
so I
still are waiting for three to actually meet and interview. Is that correct?
Correct, they've been contacted and notified, so I
Okay.
just want to underscore that.
Yeah, so at what point do we decide just to vote on one of the people we've already interviewed?
Well, I think that's a really good question. And because we're ahead of time, I guess I would want to give them the opportunity to be here.
Well,
We're there,
Would be-
right?
Well, we are. We're at 8:05. So I think maybe we will move on, and we will see if they come to be interviewed, and if not, I think my suggestion would be, given that they've been given several opportunities, maybe we need to tie this up.
I would agree.
So, but I do see Troy Clarkson here. And Troy, if you would like to do your presentation on the Carousel of Light, you have 10 minutes.
Does that include the time that it takes me to walk up to you?
Yes. Now, your time will start in a minute or two.
Give a little cushion.
I'm not that,
I do have what I meant for those two extras as well. Well, if I could just have one of those. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. My name is Troy Clarkson, and I'm before you tonight as president of the local nonprofit, the Carousel of Light. I think the Carousel is well known to members of the board and members of the public. We originated in the mid-90s when local artist Lance Schinkel decided that he wanted to preserve his hand-carved work of art. So for those who are watching who may not be familiar with the Carousel, it is an operating carousel. The mechanism is a 1947 Allen Herschel mechanism. It's identical to the one that sits on the National Mall outside the Smithsonian. The difference with our carousel is our horses are hand-carved by a local artist. So not only is the mechanism an antique and we believe of historic significance, the horses themselves, each individual horse, along with a couple of chariots, are works of art by a local artist. So we formed a nonprofit some 25 years ago, and operated the carousel, and Lance operated it, and then Lance took the carousel to California with him to care for his, at the time, infirmed dad. After his dad passed, Lance contacted us maybe 8 years ago now and said that he wanted to come home and bring the carousel, but he could not afford to bring it back. So we revived the nonprofit, including myself and Jim Bowen and Rich Sherman and some of the other original board members, raised the money to bring it home, and then worked very closely with the town, including Town Hall and the school department, to find a temporary place for it on the grounds of Mullen Hall School, where it has operated for the last, with the exception of last year, for 7 summers. And during that time, we've had the thrill of providing rides to over 135,000 riders, many of them repeats, but we've created memories 135,000 times. So as you know, we have sought for the last 7 years to try to find a permanent location so this local work of art could stay in Falmouth. This board, the select board, a few years ago formed a task force that included select board member Megan English Braga, then select board member Sue Moran, Jim Bowen, myself, and Michael Kasparian, who then and is the president of the Chamber of Commerce, but Michael was so excited about the opportunity to preserve the carousel and keep it in Falmouth, he became a board member. And so the task force worked for some time. We had several meetings at the Chamber of Commerce. We had discussions with people from the community, with the business community, with the school department, went through a host of locations. I'm conscious of the time, so I'll run through them very quickly. This is just a partial list of locations that were considered by the task force. Jim and I personally measured Town Hall Square out here, the grass. We looked at Peg Noonan Park, the Marine Park at the harbor, Library Lane, the Library Lawn, T-Ticket Park, the piece of the sliver of land across from the Bank of America that abuts Lawrence School that the 300 Committee purchased. That's just a partial list of the sites that we considered. After a significant amount of due diligence, the task force unanimously came with the recommended site. As you know, is a small, approximately 8,100 square foot sliver of land on the Mullen Hall School property, but on the western edge of that property, adjacent to the walking path. Some of it is actually within the layout of what used to be Hamlin Avenue. For those that may not be familiar with that, years ago.
You want the, we have a.
Have an easel?
How about this? Yeah, hold this.
Oh, Karen, thank you so much. One nonprofit helping another. So this is the plan that I'm sure you've seen before, but I brought it tonight just so that you can see it. This is the old Hamlin Ave layout here. This is the proposed site. This is a retaining wall. The existing fence runs along here. So we had what I thought was a very helpful and constructive discussion at a previous town meeting. As you know, the town meeting, at that meeting, a majority of town meeting members supported transferring this land from the school committee to to the select board so that you could then enter into a lease with the carousel. But it was a majority of votes and not two-thirds. The venue, as you know, was a Zoom meeting. I believe it was a challenge, not only for our article, but for all of them, for people to be heard, for people to be seen. And so we're back before you tonight in the hopes that the same article can be placed on the upcoming town meeting warrant. However, after that town meeting, we didn't just sit back and wait for the next town meeting. We've continued to do outreach. In fact, Judy, Mike Kasparian, a board member, met with Judy on site and walked around and talked about some of the dynamics. We sent just recently an email to every town meeting member address that was available on the town website and had a site visit. I will tell you that at that site visit, there were town meeting members who came who said they opposed the site. When we showed it to them, talked to them about the plans, we had more than one person that said that they would change their vote. So we're just very hopeful that you will see fit to put the same article on the town meeting warrant so that the town meeting members can have the full, robust discussion that they really weren't able to have during the Zoom meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think I covered most of what we've done. We are a nonprofit in the truest sense of the word. Board members are not compensated for their time. In fact, many board members have donated significant sums to keep the carousel running. One of the challenges is that it has to be taken up and put down every year. That causes great stress on this antique mechanism. So one of the advantages to having a permanent location is that we won't have the cost and the stress to do that every year. One of the other advantages is when we know we have a permanent home, we can fundraise and have the ability to build a permanent building. One final thought, because a lot of the questions arose during the site visit, and that's why it was so helpful. There are no plans to remove the cupola that exists. In fact, my dear friend and mentor, Eddie Marks, was instrumental, as many will know, in saving that cupola. The beautiful gardens that exist along Kathleen Lee Bates, we don't plan to disturb those. This is just simply a vote to allow the property to be transferred from the school committee to the select board so that you then can determine what the components of a lease would be. And that includes the design of the building, access and egress, and all of those questions that have come up really will be answered and discussed in a public forum should we be able to move forward. So really the question we feel is very simple and before you tonight. So what I've provided to you is the motion that Frank Duffy had written for the previous article. And just to provide you some texture, the article and then the motion itself from that previous town meeting. I'm hopeful that we get your support to move forward this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Karen.
So I have a couple of concerns. Troy, the way I look at the agenda is there is a presentation of the Carousel of Light. You have not done a petitioner's article, is that correct?
No, by design, because the last time this was before the town meeting, the selectmen actually placed the article on the warrant, and I have been in discussions with the town council about just that question.
Okay, so that's a concern of mine, and it's also a concern that this, we received this on the 13th, which is today in the afternoon. And I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with just the three of us deciding whether to put this into the warrant as our article or not. What is the harm of waiting until the spring to put it before town meeting?
If I might, I'm happy to address the concerns that you raised. As you know, I sat there at that table for 12 years, and I can tell you with cosmic certainty that 3 members constitute a majority.
I understand that. I understand what a quorum is.
So there's no prohibition on you taking a vote this evening. I brought the text of this as a courtesy tonight because the town council had asked me to do so. So the text of the article was crafted by Frank Duffy several months ago. But he, in an email to me, said, we may not have time to actually draft an article. Troy, would you please bring it with you tonight? So I bring it to you tonight because I was requested to do so by the town attorney. So to answer I can answer the question on the timing. What's the harm in waiting? I mean, the carousel will still exist if this gets pushed off to yet another town meeting. However, I can tell you that it's difficult to be able to have the sufficient funds every year to take it up and to put it down, at least if we have a permanent location. Or, by the way, if the town meeting says no, we have active interest on the table from other communities that would like to host this carousel. And so, we have tried to be engaged and be good members of the community for the last 7 years. So I believe it's properly before you this evening and would ask that you move it forward.
Did you have a question?
I just have a question, maybe from Mr. Suso. So if the warrant closed last week or the week before, I don't even know what day of the week it is, 2 weeks ago, on September 3rd, can you just go through, tonight we would be voting articles and then we'd transmit them to FinCom. Is that right?
Correct, and you publish them on Friday.
Okay, and so do we have because the warrant has already closed, could you just walk me through what the steps have been in the past to add an article once the warrant closes? Because I don't remember doing that, so I don't know what the process is.
Yeah, I'm not aware of an article being added after the warrant is executed. Between the closing of the acceptance of petition articles and the executing of the warrant, the board can choose to add warrant articles in your discretion. They just would not be petition articles.
Okay.
So we've, to the best of my knowledge, we've always held a hard and fast deadline for petition articles. So when that passes, it's only at the discretion of the board.
For a board article.
For a board article. And that has always been before or coincident with executing the full warrant, which is, you had approved in your schedule back in July that would occur tonight.
Okay, that's what, I just couldn't remember if there was, I didn't remember extending petitioners' articles beyond the close of the warrant, but I just didn't know what the rule was for adding our own.
Right.
Madam Chair, may I provide some texture to that?
Yes.
Because I anticipated that question may arise tonight, so I actually reached out to Town Council Frank Duffy and posed that very question to him. And in a response on which he copied the town manager, he validated what Mr. Suso has just said to you. And and I know just from experience that your authority as it relates to the warrant, until it's published, is very broad. And you have the authority to add articles to the warrant as you see fit before it's published.
And I think we all saw that email. At least I did.
I don't think I got that, but maybe I just didn't see it.
Any questions from the board?
No. Well, you said this is the same article that was presented in April, correct?
It was actually January, I believe. It was January of 2020 was the
first
town meeting.
with
Oh,
COVID.
I see.
It was
Okay.
our first COVID town meeting because we had delayed November.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Do I have any questions from the board?
No?
Don't have any questions, but I guess, so I share the concern about the agenda doesn't read with this, but I guess at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, I'm not showing, anybody a surprise that I like this project and I like this carousel. At the end of the day, I do think town meeting makes the right decisions about projects. And I guess I understand the concern that there's just 3 of us here. So I don't know what weight how that will feel at town meeting. That's going to be part of what town meeting takes in. But I guess, I would say, it would be my opinion, although I don't think it's ideal, I think I would have like to maybe see it as a petitioner's article, just because I think it gives it more play, but I understand we did it that way before. I wouldn't mind seeing this come back before town meeting, and let town meeting, I agree, I think it was it was the best meeting that we could have had in January, and I think it was run incredibly well. But there wasn't a lot of information, because people weren't out, they weren't doing anything in advance of it, so.
And I agree with you that it should come before town meeting. I have no issue with that. My issue is whether it comes before town meeting in November or in April. And that's really my question, because I'm not real thrilled with the process. I would have liked to have had a meeting that said, vote on putting the Carousel of Light into the warrant, because that signals to people to come in and have an opinion, right? And so for me, I don't think I could support it as our article going into the warrant. If it had been a petitioner's article, I think it would have been a no-brainer.
I think I understand your concern in the way that it was done. I do think because it is the same article that was presented before, I would motion to put this on the warrant as written for November town meeting.
And
So
I would.
have a motion. Do I have a second?
I would second it,
Okay.
although I do, just to sort of caution for other folks, I do think it, and I think probably Troy is hearing that, it can run the risk sometimes, the petitioner's article, you just have that more control. And I think that this, would be a second bite at the apple, and maybe we will hopefully be in person, and it gives it a better feel, and it gives people more of an opportunity to speak in favor or against it, a more sort of thorough and full conversation, which I don't think we had the last time. So I would second.
So I have a motion and a second to put the article on the warrant as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The majority has it. It will go into the warrant article.
Thank you very much.
Now I will look again for. Okay, so it is now, I'm going to ask that there be no conversations, please. It is now 8:30, and it does not appear as though the three people, Marianne Keevens, Deborah Cotton, or Stephen McDonald, are going to show up for an interview. So I would put to the board that we go forward, we nominate and vote for a person for the Falmouth Housing Authority Tenant Board member. Do I have any nominations?
So it's a single member,
Yes.
right? And it's for a term that ends 6/30/2026.
Yes. Do I have a motion?
Let me just double check my notes.
Here, do you need this? Oh, you've
I
got
have that
okay.
one.
I don't mind starting just to see if anybody is in agreement.
Sure.
I would move Kathleen Haynes for a period ending 6/30/2026.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Kathleen Haynes for Falmouth Housing Authority Tenant Board Committee.
I didn't highlight the right page, sorry, give me just a second.
Take your time.
Take your time.
A lot of paper.
It is a lot of paper. Yes, and I would second that nomination for Kathleen Hayes.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Congratulations to Kathleen Haynes as the newest Falmouth Housing Authority Tenant Board member for that committee. Thank you.
That's a lot of this packet.
Yes.
That was my issue.
Sure is.
Yes, and I'd like to go back and actually, because we do have a minute, if I could just address the packet. I'm going to request from the town manager's office that we do not include the email trails on people who are asking to become members. I just think that it goes through Diane, it goes to the town manager. I don't think that we need the emails unless anyone on the board disagrees.
No, I think Diane does a good job of letting us know if somebody was out sick or let us, if they were not able to attend, so I would agree.
The resumes, I think, are really important. The emails just are not.
Will do.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, so we are waiting for Scott McGann to give us a Board of Health report.
Or we could, Madam Chair, if you wish, we could
We
move to
could-
vote the articles of the
I
warrant.
was
Or
just
did you
concerned
wanna-
that he would show up and we might run into trouble, but if we want to start that, that's fine with me.
Madam Chair, I can just
Yes.
add that I did get a text from Scott, and I told him that we were slightly ahead of schedule, and that
Okay.
8:40 was fine. So I expect they'll probably be here right around 8:40.
Okay, but we can take a look at this. I think it's a good idea. Yes. So we will be addressing the articles
I had a question.
and looking to execute the warrant. Yes.
Have these all been reviewed as far as language by town council or any other appropriate authority before they go in here?
They've been prepared by town council with the exception of the petition articles, which cannot be changed.
Petition articles cannot be changed?
Correct.
Okay.
It's however the petitioner has worded it, although sometimes when we vote either up or down on them later, right, we sometimes will give some guidance on language that maybe needs to be amended on the floor.
Okay, so
That's happened.
if we find a petitioner's article, maybe we would like to support it, I don't know, if it was, something was more clear, or if language was removed or something, how do we deal with that?
Well, you don't get to choose. You either put it on, well, actually, petition articles have to go on the warrant, so there is no discretion on that this evening. As far as the board recommending support or otherwise, that'll be a report that comes to you at the, we have a date on that.
Yes.
I think it's, I don't know if it's on the 27th or the following,
No, I think it's maybe after that,
Date,
the petitioners.
That's October 4th?
Yeah.
October 4th?
Yes. Vote article
So,
recommendation.
yeah, so that's when
Okay.
the petitioners will be presenting to you and other members of the board. And then the following meeting, the board will be voting to determine whether you want to take a position on those, yea or nay.
Okay.
So petition article presentations, it looks like it's on the 27th.
27th, right. 27th.
No, that's okay, because I
So-
thought I heard the wrong
Right.
date.
So the vote will be on October 4th, then, the
Yes.
following
Right,
date.
okay.
So in 2 weeks, petitioners will arrive, talk about their petition articles, all of which you're required to place on the warrant as long as they've been successfully petitioned. And by virtue of the fact that they're on this list, they have met all the requirements.
Okay.
The language is sometimes questioned, but it goes to town meeting as is.
Okay, thank you.
So all we do tonight is just vote what goes on the warrant, and later we can vote whether we recommend it, the ones that we have authority over.
Right, okay. Well, then I think I have a lot less questions for today.
But many on
Yeah.
October 4th.
After you've reviewed them, do you have any questions or any additional comments on the articles that are before you?
I did, on Article 25, there's an asterisk after ferry embarkation fee fund, and then I didn't see anywhere that told me what that asterisk meant.
Petition articles, so we can't help you.
Is that a petitioner's article, right?
The
It is,
petitioner's
so
article, yes.
It's 7
Yeah,
articles.
so I guess that's why I'm
Yep,
just hold.
good
Okay.
question.
Yeah, very.
So if the petitioner's listening,
And then
Yes.
I did have a question on 23, what constitutes commercial vehicles? And then, yeah, so we'll just wait.
Yeah, those will be the petitioners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great questions.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board on the articles?
I can do it by page, however, how would you like to do it?
If you,
Do you want me to do sort of, move Articles 1 through 3, or however?
yes,
Okay.
yes, please.
So I would move
Oh, I'm
Articles.
sorry, we have a question from someone in the audience.
Yes, please.
Karen Bissonette, Affordable Housing Committee. As you know, we had some articles that we asked you to support, which you have, I do believe. I was just, I'm here this evening to make sure that the wording, and I don't know what numbers they are because I haven't seen the documents you have. I just want to make sure, because we had submitted some language that members of the Affordable Housing Committee, the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee, had met with town council on. And we used his recommendation. And then when we were here last time, there was a question from the finance director as to the legality of what the town council had recommended. So I'm just trying to find out what language you are going to use, because if you're not going to use the language that was recommended by town council, I would like to discuss that with you.
These came from town council. 14, 15, and 16.
Are they different from what he had given the Affordable Housing Committee chair?
I can't answer.
Do you know that?
I don't know.
So let me just take a look. I think what he had discussed when we were together, let me just look at this to see if it's, we had a discussion about what the language had to be.
Okay. So what the finance director questioned was whether or not these funds could be designated for the Affordable Housing Fund. My understanding is through the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee that that was town council's recommendation, that it could say designated to.
I think that's what it could not say. I think that that's, if my recollection is, and it could be faulty, but I believe that town meeting only has the power to determine that piece of it. We can move to raise rates on some of these things. We can move to create an affordable housing. I guess we have this affordable housing trust fund that we're talking about appropriating a sum of money, which is that $3 million, which is a specific amount this time. But every year we would have to vote.
Every year.
The funds. So
That one I do understand. That is not the one I'm questioning.
No, it's the same. What I'm
Okay.
saying is for 15 and 16, we cannot say that all the money that comes from one tax goes to this thing. We are prohibited because town meeting has that authority. So we can raise those taxes, and then each year we would, in the budget, and please stop me if I'm wrong, but
Correct.
each year we would then talk about the sums of money that would go. Is that-
It's about appropriation, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, if I could just add on to that, that's all correct. There have been instances where the select board has adopted a policy about recurring allocations. So the select board, it would not be in the town meeting warrant article, as you've just described, but in terms of if the board were inclined to support the proposal of the Affordable Housing Committee, there is a way to, for the board to pursue that end. But it's not, it's not forever legally binding.
Can't guarantee it.
It's a policy that the board sets and the board can change.
Because town meeting controls the purse.
Right, but there are past examples of that in terms of how we appropriate money into the Capital Stabilization Fund, for example.
So if we were inclined to do that policy, it would be after town meeting has approved this article, or whichever article we're referring to.
So that your revenues are coming in. You need that article approved so that you have the revenues to appropriate.
Okay.
So is it possible to get a copy of what you have? I mean, is that?
Posted on the website.
It is posted on the website.
Here, you can have my copy right here, because I've read it many times, but it's on the website. Our packets are always on the website, so you can pull it up. But it's your 14, 15, and 16. And
Okay.
that is the correct language, because that's the language that Frank drafted after the conversation at our last meeting.
Okay, that's curious. All right. So, we will then, so what you're saying is here, 15, when it talks about the short-term rental, to be determined the effective date. So will there be an explanation then saying that this was at the recommendation of the Affordable Housing Committee? So will town meeting know that we hope it's for affordable housing?
That can go in the recommendation that's
An
part of the.
explanation.
It can go into the explanation, because it's
That is
kind
yet
of.
to be written.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is it's kind of silly to try to be raising money for something and you're not telling people what you're raising money for, so.
Right, no, it would be in the explanation
Right.
as to why we're
Okay.
asking to do it.
Okay, so that would be 14, and then 15, the same kind of thing when, but they don't really, you're not talking about I guess it's to me, there's not enough of an explanation, because you're talking about the community impact fee on number 16, is that correct?
Right.
Right, and so, I know it says general law, chapter 64G, but you don't say in there that it's a community impact fee. So that will be in the explanation?
It says it in the second line.
I'm sorry.
Community impact.
Oh, community, I'm sorry, yes, okay.
The explanation of why we would be trying to do that would be, will be drafted saying that the idea is for that to potentially be used for affordable housing.
Right, it's
So that
just
town
not.
meeting understands why, we're not just raising the tax just for
Exactly.
the heck of it.
But I believe these 3 articles are the wording of town council.
you're right.
And then the explanation expounds, but I see the explanation as different from the actual legal article.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And just to clarify further, Madam Chair, if I may, as these are all financial articles, Finance Committee will have the recommendation on them by protocol, so.
Thank you. Thank
And
you
who
for
writes
pointing
the
that out.
explanation for these?
Generally, staff members do. We
Okay.
work with the Finance Committee and also with whomever the board would designate to work with us on that.
Okay. I'd like to work on those 3 articles when the time comes.
Very good, yeah.
I know that, the Board of Health is here now, so I know we started this, but what would you like to do?
Why don't we bring the Board of Health to do their presentation? If the board is okay with that, I know it's a little clunky, but because we're so off in terms of time, and I don't want to make them wait.
We're actually only 5 minutes ahead of time for the Board of Health, so.
But we've done everything else.
I know.
Yeah.
So
That's not a bad
so
thing.
you're
That's a
not
good
off,
thing.
you're
Not
not off the
complaining about
hook
that.
yet. We're
It's a
still
good
going to do
thing.
the warrant articles.
Getting
Thank you,
darker
Scott.
earlier now.
Yes,
It's hard to know what time it is.
This will be the Board of Health presentation, and you'll have 15 minutes.
Oh,
That's yours.
it's not on here.
Deja vu.
You're gonna kill me.
I'm gonna kill you.
It's not on this one.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Do we, oh, where is it though? I got it on my
Go ahead.
phone.
You want me, go ahead.
Yeah, huh?
It's not on here, it's not on here. I can't help that I grabbed the wrong one.
So you're gonna, so
He's gonna go get it.
should we continue with something else, I guess? Are you gonna get it for me?
Come on, Scott.
right.
All right, let's go.
I move
I
articles.
totally understand,
That
totally
happens.
understand.
I move Articles 1 through 3 for the November 15th, 2021 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Well, then I'm gonna motion 4 and 5.
I second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve Articles 4 and 5. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move Articles 6 through 11.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve Articles 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Do I have a second?
Second, excuse me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Articles 12 through 17, motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Articles 12 through 17. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll move 18, 19, and 20. Actually, why don't, I'll just do 18, 19, sorry, 18 through 27. We'll bring it to the end of that page.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Articles 18 through 27. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous approved.
Motion to approve Articles 28 through 31.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Articles 28 through 31. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I guess we have to move an Article 32,
Yes.
right, for this article that was placed tonight.
Okay, so Article 32. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion to approve Article 32 is written.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion to approve Article number 32. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. So it will go on as Article number 32.
Oh, sorry, these
No,
are my
that's-
random
that's all right.
scribbles.
Okay. So thank you for that. Now we will go back to the Board of Health.
I mean, I can read it from my phone. It's just out my cues. Diana Malloy, Falmouth Board of Health Chair. I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what's been going on, though I think you have a fairly good idea on a lot of it, especially the COVID.
You guys have been relaxing. What are you talking about?
We won't focus too much on the COVID. Just know that we have the 5 members of our team, Steve Rafferty, George Huffelder, Kevin Kroger, and Ben Van Moy here with me tonight, and work pretty well, I think, as a team. For each meeting, we read our mission statement before we start, so just want you to know that our really is to protect and promote the health, safety, and well-being of the residents and visitors of the town of Falmouth. Primary functions of the board are to achieve our mission are to prevent and control disease, enforce state and local regulations, promulgate local health regulations, and really focus on preventing disease. The staffing of the department, want to thank you for the approval last year for the addition of an administrative support role, which has been filled by Morgan, and she's the senior office assistant. And also want to thank you for the approval of a contract RN position to help with COVID and all of the contact tracings. Scott will attest that these 2 positions, thank you very much. Let's go down a couple more. These 2 positions have been invaluable to measuring the department needs during this unprecedented time. The assistant health agent, Mallory Langler, is back and going full steam ahead and has been working with Scott all summer, so this has been great to have her back and going forward. Linda Kinchler continues to support the department, has throughout the pandemic, and so much more administrative support and public service. Bernie Sullivan continues to support Scott with field inspections. He's kind of, I don't know whether it's contract or per diem, but just works some few hours. And we now have a new recording secretary as of our last meeting, Nikki Walsh, and we're glad to have her as part of our team. Overall, if we look at the department as a whole, compared to other departments, even those on Cape Cod, we run pretty lean. At this time, our health agent feels it's manageable with this additional support and getting everybody on board. But the board does expect that at some point in the not too far future, we will be looking for an additional FTE. Again, given all the additional responsibilities and things that don't seem to be going away. But at this point, we have nothing solid in our thought process as far as what exactly functions we need. Just want to make a public thank you to the board members. Ben has been assisting with data management for presentation of COVID statistics and charts. He's assisted with inspections this year. He's been out to the Smithfield Farm several times. He assisted with updating the tobacco regulations during our meetings as we made changes. We're actually currently working on the solid waste proposal, and again, he's making changes as we're speaking, which has been extremely helpful in efficiencies. George Huffelder was out on housing inspections with myself. He was also out to the Smithfield Farm with the health agent and myself. He's currently assisting and researching and drafting potential poultry regulations. I don't want to make that seem like they're an in thing, but that's what we're drafting, and we'll see what happens with that. We're starting to plan some meetings for public input on those. Kevin Kroger and Steve Rafferty have been active in researching information required for various septic and environmental issues. And again, it's been a great team. And all this has been going on while they're working full time during the pandemic, although Steve's in retirement most recently. COVID-19, I don't want to get too much into it, but again, it's been the main focus and our number one priority since March 2020. Contract tracing still going on through the VNA with the public health nurse contract. And Kathy Quinn, that contracted support nurse and the health agent, has been a lot of communication with school departments and the businesses, and really just pulling everyone together as needed. And of course, her hours have cut way back, but it's getting busy again out there. Research and guidance and enforcement of the state mandates has affected businesses, closings, reopenings, modified regulations, state mandates, all this going on, Centers for Communicable Disease guidance, and that's been all affecting our businesses, our restaurants, health facilities, schools, municipal buildings, and other establishments. And Scott's been maintaining all these statistics. Again, Ben's been very supportive in helping him, as well as reporting to the state positive improbable cases, and we'll continue to go with the flow on this one. Our current state, our ongoing health agent reports to you on a regular basis and is doing the community television broadcasts and the board, so then he's reporting to us as well, inclusive the current cases, the statistics, prevention efforts, mitigation, and vaccine counts. Vaccine clinics, though most of that has kind of subsided in a way, we're looking at if boosters come up, what does that mean? And at this point, they're just being recommended for immunocompromised folks. And the ongoing education. There has been ongoing changes, as you know, with the mandates, and we will continue to, as we do at each of our meetings, discuss our current case positivity rate and look at whether any other mitigation strategies should be put in place. Tonight's meeting, we again reinforced that I think we're at a mask advisory, and we're feeling comfortable with that at this point in time, but again, just know that we continue to look at that every time we meet, and if needed, we'll meet more often. Massachusetts, well, now the president, since I wrote this, looking at mandates for vaccines. So how's that going to affect the home care providers, the long-term care, the hospitals, et cetera? And so they're going to need some support and assuring compliance. The Delta variant, you know, we've had some breakthrough cases. Again, I'm not going to go too into that, and we'll stick with the mask advisory at this point, or that's our recommendation. In the midst of all this, the Massachusetts folks that work with the tobacco regulations, they updated their regulations that passed on 6/1/2020. And so we needed to look at our local regulations. When we were working with folks from the state to kind of play off, I don't want to say play off of, but you know, in addition to their regulations and make sure we understood all of them, they told us that we were the only town around here, or actually the only town that had really tackled all this and had passed those. So we completed those local additions, and they went out this summer. Basically, the highlights of it are to cap or limit the number for us locally on tobacco permits issued by the Falmouth Board of Health to the current number of 35. Our goal would be to decrease, but we're not planning to do that by just cutting anybody. Somebody that's been had repeated violations by a permit holder, that would be maybe if we revoked that license, that would be a way to decrease the number. And also failure to renew their permits by the annual expiration date. You know, maybe we'd get one, maybe we'd get none this year, but over time, our goal is to decrease smoking tobacco permits in the town. The fine structure through the state was increased to be in line with ours with the state regulations. The first sales offense, $1,000, second sales offense, $2,000. So they're taking it pretty seriously. And the nicotine content in the electronic delivery systems can't exceed 35 milligrams per milliliter. And again, there's only one that has the adult smoking, and that's the only place that actually even gets that close, and prohibition of smoking bars. And so those are kind of the highlights of what we went with. We tend to make the newspaper on a regular basis with what's been going on with Smithfield Farm. Lots of concerns from the community, both supporting the farm and also those wanting us to rescind the permit. This all started back in December of 2020. There was a little bit of concern about the status of the farm, and Scott looked for our guidance in the permit. The permit was issued, and then it had to be less than 2 weeks after that. 2 horses were loose on Sandwich Road and 1 was killed. So there was a lot of safety concerns, and we've been working with them. We've worked with the owner to identify the additional safety interventions to institute. It's been a long haul in trying to get things in compliance, but we believe that we're at a point where there'll just be some ongoing inspections and make sure that things are being maintained. Again, the support from the community was both positive and negative, and people felt very strongly about it, very passionate about either way. So there's been a lot of correspondence with folks, and we've tried to really listen to what they've had to say and make sure that we worked within our scope of our regulations, which are very limited at this time. So one of the things that we'd like to do is try to, after we work with poultry and solid waste, is kind of tackle, these stable regulations. But they are in a bylaw, so it'll take a little more effort on trying to figure out. But I think we'd like to at least look at those. They're very brief right now. And again, we did rescind the permit in February for non-adherence. But again, just like anything else, when the owner is able to meet all the requirements and has all the regulations that are being enforced there, then they get their permit back, and which she did. Just see if we had anything else. And solid waste, we're currently reviewing potential regulations as drafted by the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Alan Robinson, Amy Roth, and Mary Ryther has been at our meetings and working through line by line and trying to really understand and make sure that we're all in sync on that. So it's a work in progress. And I just want to publicly thank the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. They've done a tremendous amount of work, and it's really been helpful in bringing it to us. We didn't have to start from scratch, so wanted to say thank you. We've had 2 fairly complex housing issues throughout this spring, and I think we've got them both pretty much resolved. So just, again, board members step to the plate to assist the health agent with going out, doing some inspections, doing follow-up, etc. And I mentioned the poultry regulations. We need to have, matter of fact, tonight we said we need a larger venue for that. So we picked some potential dates, and Scott's going to be looking into that as far as getting some community input. And in the meantime, we will continue to address the individual complaints that have been going. I think the roosters is one big thing. Odor is, it's another big issue that's been brought to our attention. We're continuing to enforce the compliance with innovative septic system, making sure maintenance contracts are in place and testing requirements. The cyanobacteria in freshwater ponds, Scott was following that very closely all summer long. West Nile, we only had 1 positive, no treatment was required, 1 positive test by the state. Glyphosate and overall pesticide use, huge nut. In the future, we'll be looking for you for some guidance as to where we're going to go with that and how we can be helpful. And again, just nothing solid, but it's come up in discussion regarding the sea level rise, and should we be looking at our local septic regulations to address that. So those are some of the things that are kind of in the discussion phase of the work, and I didn't send it, but I should have. We have this initiative sheet, and it just kind of lists our priorities, and kind of we go through and say, when we're going to tackle this and when we're going to tackle that. And it's been helpful to keep us on track. And there's a lot of things that we just put in the holding bucket because there's just can't tackle them, but that they're public health issues that it'd be nice at one point we can address. So we're chopping away at them. And Select Board, we want to thank you for the ongoing support of our work. We'd like to publicly acknowledge our health agent, Scott McGann. He's done an amazing job. I mean, I get comments all the time. I don't know if you've heard things in the community, but how responsive he's been. You know, he was the sole agent for a long time, and certainly in the beginning of all this, he's juggled multiple priorities, 7 days a week, many times, and long days. And he really believes in his role as public service, and I think from what we're hearing, he's displaying that. So he continued to communicate with all of us and the community as a whole, and ensures daily operations for permitting, septics, all those other things, restaurants and all that, follow-up on complaints, enforcing many regs, continued throughout this. And we're very proud to be working with him and the whole team to fulfill our mission, the Board of Health. So, do you have any questions? How did I do for 15 minutes?
You were right on time. So good. I have a question and a comment. My question is, I'd like a copy of your PowerPoint.
Sure, Scott has that.
I think it would be really great to have that. And my second comment is that it's nothing short of heroic and amazing that you were able to do all of these other pieces over the past year with the pandemic, because that's what everyone was focused on.
Right.
But you do have other things you have to do at the same time. So I think I agree with you. I think Scott is absolutely amazing. And I'm glad the board supports him and continues to do the work that they're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's quite a team. I mean, everybody jumps. Right, Ben? Everybody's jumped to the plate when things needed to be done, and it was a lot.
Yes.
Hi, Ben Van Moy, Board of Health. I just want to say that, just real quickly, a thanks to Diana. She, like you said, she keeps us all moving very quickly. She lives and breathes our mission statement, and she has the full confidence of the board. And I don't know what we would have done without somebody like Diana, who is in the human health sector during this pandemic. So. Anyway, I want to speak for the board for our support for Diana's leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
I did try to give the chair position away.
No one wants it.
Nobody wants it.
Nobody wanted it. They were funny. They were like, because I said, I want you to talk about it when I'm not at the last meeting. And they were like, no, we'll talk about it while you're here. It's like, well, I want you to feel comfortable. Oh, we feel comfortable.
You stay in the position.
You stay with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just a quick comment.
Yes.
I just want to add my voice to the hope that we continue to look at staffing for that department. I think that department is only going to, even when COVID is managed, it's not the only thing that's ever going to happen. And so I do think it has been amazing, but no one can keep up. No one can run at a marathon, for days and years on end. So I just think I want to be aware that we have an incredible board that's taking on and doing a lot of work, and Scott and his staff have been incredible, but I think we need to be practical to continue to have those good services so we can go out and do some of, I know those issues with residences are really challenging and take a long time and a lot of effort. It's one of the things that we get emails about, because everybody wants to know, what can the town do? This house doesn't look safe, or you have something going on. And I just think that, we have to look at the staffing long-term to just make sure that we're able to continue to get those good services out. But I'm glad that we've done what we have done with staffing. I think that was really vital and long overdue, but I just want to echo that, the board's push for that.
I also think that COVID taught us a really important lesson about how integral the health department is in the overall functioning of our town and keeping us healthy. So I would absolutely support that. So thank you very much.
Who knew? Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that we have completed our agenda.
Wow.
And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.